I'm watching a program on NBC, Megyn Kelly program, and today is 21st of November, 2017. I watched it, and she's talking about that they've gotten around to telling about doctors, at least some of it today, that have done the same thing, sexual misconduct. Excuse me if I have feelings here, okay? Um, with their patients, supposedly be their patients. What a ludicrous thing to say that these rape victims are patients, and I'm not sure these were raped totally or how. I didn't hear it all. But anyway, when they get back to the hospitals and universities I think they were students, forgive me for not getting it all, uh, uh, but they're apologetic to a degree, and it's been this and it's been that. In other words, they're getting out of answering it to the press, who's finally gotten around to somebody's allegations. I'm watching all these allegations pour in of misconduct, sexual, etc., against TV stars, producers, and now then a CBS host this morning. He was dismissed because of allegations of the same thing. So it's run the gamut, kind of, but I'm going back to what I started putting up on, because I can't get an attorney or anybody to even listen. People have called me names. Even they've done things to me over my lifetime and to my children. And my children would never know the truth. I don't even know. I hope they're alive. I haven't seen them since 1980, April Fool Day, just before then, when I was almost murdered. I should have died. I'm going to try to get this up, though, and then there's another part of it. I'm going to wait till later. I wrote a book, a medical malpractice book, MD, A License to Kill, because in part what had been done to me, and this is before I found out a bit about being kidnapped and why this is all, it was open season to do anything you wanted to, me, America, while Elizabeth and well, I'm Margaret Ann Windsor. I was kidnapped in 41. I'll say it again, and brought to Moulton, Alabama, and given the name of a twin, Peggy Ann Dempsey. I married a Childers. I have to still use that name. The twins were murdered by their mother, Lina. The family covered it up. When I wrote the book, she was hell on wheels. She was a psychopath. The whole family were so horrible to be dumped in at age 2. My father's Edward VIII, married to Claudia Ruth O'Keefe Windsor. He never had anything to do with Wallace Simpson. My father would not, a double married Wallace, an imposter. My own Uncle George, who's illegal, Monarch Elizabeth's father, so she's illegal, the whole brood is. He helped in taking down his own brother with character assassination. He kidnapped me. He planned it with Roosevelt. 1939. So JFK got into, his father had been appointed ambassador to England by Roosevelt. And when I was born in 39, JFK and his older brother flew in there, and JFK was still flying in 41 when they kidnapped me. He was part of my kidnapping, and that's why when I lived at worked for Fred Simpson in Huntsville, Alabama in 80, the district attorney, that I lived at Warren House Apartments. There are clues to my identity and to who did this to me, JFK and the Warren Commission, Simpson as in Wallace, who married a double. So you get into massive takedown of my father because he wouldn't go along and take orders from the Illuminati. I mean, history is totally opposite to who and My father is. And my mom is just deleted. She's sister to artist George Oakey. You can't even find her pictures. Now then, I've never said much about this. I'm going to go ahead and put it up. It has to come out. It's almost like the victim is paying for the crime. After my children were born, I know now that my husband knew about my identity all along, and he was meant to marry me. So in Scott was born and Martin was born, and they were a couple of years old, and they were close, about 11 and a half months apart. But anyway, I thought that I felt, I'm not going to tell this part. I'm going to wait because I want to get the other up. There is a Hyman Miller. He's a German Jew. His wife was a Jew that they got from, along with all her paintings, how about this, from Germany. I can't, I'm not going to put on here what was done there. It is so horrific what he and, now I'm going to forget the name of the woman, anesthesiologist. So you can guess what they did. Total misdiagnosis. You talk about them saying, using gas on the Jews and all this. It was all right. I've been told that what was done to me was because of what my family did to the Jews. Well, I hope there's a higher power in this. I really do. Anyway, I'm going to skip that. The damage that was done, and I hope there are pictures of it that the world has to see. And I want to remind you, this was a total lie diagnosis. This was to get back at my family, the kidnapping, all of it. And if I sound rambling, this is what, trying to go back and forth and get people to listen to me. I had a letter from the FBI, 79. They almost killed me again, April Fool's Day of 80. And I'm talking about being from, I left Huntsville, and I'm going to go into this a little bit if I can. My husband had gone ahead of me to Atlanta. And we had lived there when I was first married in Atlanta, College Park, come to think of it. So while I was in Huntsville, and this Hyman Miller killer, by the way, he raped another woman there, and her name, and I don't mean to hurt her. I don't even know if she's still alive because she came to me. Her name, we became friends. Her husband, Bob Lauderdale, worked with my husband out at, for the government that was involved in NASA and space and all that. Peggy Ferguson Lauderdale came to me, and she asked, had Hyman Miller ever done certain things to me, and she described it. The poor girl, she was a beautiful girl, and it's weird, I found out about my kidnapping in 83 and who my father and mother are. After looking back and knowing what happened to me, she took me to Athens, Alabama to meet who she thought was her mother and her sisters. I got there and I thought they brutalized her. And when I think of the comparison of what happened to me and the Dempseys and all that, I wonder if Peggy Ferguson was not really a Ferguson. You get into the Fergie, like links to identities in it, but I'm not going to get into that now. That married illegal Andrew and Elizabeth's son. And I met her parents there, and I thought, there's something wrong with this. She spoke of how they tied her hands. She's so pretty. She looked like she stepped out of a magazine and everything. Beautiful girl, woman. She had 2 children. Well, she had 1 at the time. And anyway, I began, after I found out what had been done to me and what I know, she described that Hyman Miller, doctor, psychiatrist, can I say that Jew, and his anesthesiologist was Jew? You gotta be kidding me. This went on, nobody cared. I mean, I begged, pleaded, went to everybody. Then I'm gonna skip to, and then I'm gonna let this go because there's something else when I leave here where I'm at. I hope I'm here for a couple of weeks at least that I can afford it. But I wanted to tell about Atlanta. Okay, while in Huntsville, and this is going on, and I haven't told you all of it because I don't want to. You talk about a doctor can misdiagnose you because he's told to. It's diagnosis murder. It's hard to undo it, and especially how it was all done. And it's hard to undo when you look back at the so-called medicine, which was poison. It was, I can't even remember, Meloril, Thorazine, sleeping pills that knock the hell out of you. I don't know what all I was put on. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. Maybe I shouldn't. They shocked me. They shocked me over and over many times. My husband and babies would sit outside while this son of a bitch shocked me. And this anesthesiologist, it went on for 5 or 6 years. During that time, I contacted this Victor Gonzalez, and he was at Redstone Arsenal. He's a child psychiatrist. And I do know that he was at Parkland in Dallas when John Kennedy was taken there and shot. He was interning. Now then, the connection there is I find out later about being kidnapped and John Kennedy helping in my kidnapping and taking me to Moulton, which is near Huntsville, Decatur, and Gadsden, where a lot of things are going on right now, Alabama. But anyway, I remember calling him because I was trying to get away from Hyman Miller and trying to feel better with what was being done to me. It was hell on wheels what was being done to me and my sons. And me begging all the time. Okay, he talked to me. He said, well, I'm a child psychiatrist, so I can't see you or anything. So then I'm working at the health spa there, Cosmopolitan. I'm managing the women's side. They were separate then. And he came in with his wife, and I remember her very well. She just had a baby. I remember what she looked like. She could not speak English. He came in and with her, and he went around with her, and when I took her around to show her the exercises and everything, he signed her up for 90 days, I believe is what it was. And he brought her in a couple of times, and that was the end of it. He come back in, and he brought a hairstylist book, wanted me to show him the style that would look good on his wife. I detested the man. I thought, you're a sick, okay? Now then, he come back in, and which was odd, and he said, I didn't really know this man, and the Gonzalez, the doctor, I made a connection that he was to the doctor out there. He was the doctor out there, psychiatrist, child psychiatrist. So then he comes back in. I would go out to eat on my break at night, a deli just a couple of doors up, and he was parked in the curve there. And he got out, and he said his wife had gone back to Honduras with a baby that had a baby. She'd had a baby. Just before she come to the health spa. He brought her there and followed her around all the time. But he asked me to get in the car with him and go for a ride, and I told him to go to hell. I stood there and told him to go to hell and to never come back. I thought, you sick? And I could use some words here, but then that would come back and say, hey, you shouldn't use that kind of language. There's no language that can describe what's been done to me and my family. Okay, I'm going to skip now to my husband went to Lockheed, Marietta, in Marietta, Georgia. He moved us over there, and by this time, I was suffering. I know what caused it now, other than the mess that was going on, but I'm not going to get into it now. I hope it's all laid out. I really do. It wasn't okay to do this to me. Got to Atlanta, and my husband took me to. I'm going to put his name up here now since all this is coming up. This is a doctor. This is the same man I've been talking about, Victor Gonzalez, child psychiatrist. He was at the Twin Towers across from Lenox Square in Atlanta, and he was on the 16th floor. I can remember going, and he was heavy. I didn't connect him to. They had me so out that I didn't connect him to. I really didn't. As looking like or being the same doctor over in Huntsville. There'd been a year span maybe between him moving to Atlanta. I remember he came out of his office and I went to him. My husband took me to this rape killer. Seriously. Okay. I walk out. I'm in the waiting room. He walks out and he walks over by this is at night. About 6 o'clock my appointment was. I walk over, or I'm sitting down. He walks out and he walks over there and he starts taking his shoes off. And immediately I start screaming this blood-curdling scream that you could hear because I didn't know. I couldn't verbalize it. I've been told since then it's an act of sexual, taking his shoes off in front of me and everything. And I'm screaming. This man, I'm not going to go on to what happened, and I know that people would they did blame me back then. You couldn't say anything about a psychiatrist. You seduced him. I want you to know that this man did not look like the same person later when I could remember it. He lost weight, and I could say this, and somebody else say you can't use that language. I wouldn't wipe my you-know-what on this sorry son of a bitch. All right? Now then, they'll take me off of YouTube. I didn't use language, but they've already, because it's something I put on there about William going into Google, and that's when this happened. They tried to take whether it's connected, I don't know. It was about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. But anyway, I'm going to go, the same thing happened there. The so-called medicine that's poison was given me over the years, and I'm not going to go into the rest of it. It's horrifying. You talk about taking your life and shredding it. I am going to tell this, that this is during the Watergate. I came back to his office one night, and he had, he was a mentor from Tulane, where Gonzalez went to college and became a psychiatrist. Now then, his daughter, this mentor of his, I mean, he had to know he's a psychopath. Other doctors that I know diagnosed him as a psychopath. And Lina Dempsey, mother of the twins, a psychopath, and my husband as a psychopath. The doctor said to me, I've never seen someone that was surrounded by 3 psychopaths that had so much influence on one person in control on one person's life. So anyway, Gonzalez, I didn't connect it then. This Gonzalez in Atlanta was in no way the same Gonzalez back in that I had met briefly at the health spa in Huntsville. I saw his wife. She drove up at one time. She was no way the same person, and supposedly, get this, that they'd had a couple of children. So I'm going to say this. There was a young girl, 12 years old, that came out of his office, and she was wearing plastic. You could see right through it. It was just plastic, like I've got right here. She had on for a blouse, and to be 12 years